All right, so we're here with Rich Isaacson, longtime friend and business partner of Steve Rifkin. They're Loud Records at the beginning. And we're here to talk today a little bit about producers and clearing samples and everything like that. Um, so, you were talking a minute ago how it's imperative that any producer, any song that has a sample in it, has to have some type of clearance on it.
Yeah, what happens is a lot of times producers or artists make a record, and they use remnants of a famous song, or it's not a famous song, and then they think, oh well, I replayed it. I didn't actually use the original recording. I replayed it so I don't have to clear it, and that's not right. When you samples, there are two rights involved. There's the master right and the publishing right. So I kind of explain this. I think the easiest way to explain it is kind of using an analogy like a recipe for a cake, right?
Okay.
The publishing is the music and the lyrics, right? Think of that as the recipe for a cake, right? Anybody can bake a cake, but if you want to bake a certain type of cake, you need the right recipe, right?
Right.
So you borrow somebody's recipe, and you try to make the cake exactly to that recipe, right?
Okay.
That's kind of like the publishing. So if you want to re-record a song, Akon's song right now, you want to re-record that, you're using his recipe, right? His lyrics, his music. Your version of right now, you own the master, you own that recording, but you don't own the publishing or the underlying composition that was written by Akon and his producer. So that's what you need to understand. So if you replay Akon, and you hire your own musicians, and you make the beat yourself, you might not have to pay SRC or Universal, who owns the master for the Akon recording, but you still have to pay Akon's publisher, or you have to clear it. You have to get their permission. If you want to make an exact replica of somebody else's song that has already been out more than at least one time, you don't have to get their permission. If you're just going to re-record the publishing side of it, you pay what's called a compulsory license, which I think is 9.2 cents for each 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes, I'm not sure, of a song or less. So you don't have to get somebody's permission to re-record an exact replica, but if you deviate at all from that exact replica of the song, then you have to get their permission. And they can say no. They don't have to give it to you.
Okay.
So that happens all the time. It's happened at Loud Records, it happens at SRC, and I'm sure it's going to happen to a bunch of the producers out there. You make a song, you love this beat, you love the lyric, and then somebody says, oh, that sounds like, X.
Right.
And you say, no, it doesn't. And if the average person thinks it sounds like X, and you had access to that prior song, then you might have a claim against you. So you really have to be careful and make sure that any rights you know of that you need to take care of, you need to take care of them, or else you can be liable for copyright infringement.
Okay. And so is there I guess a process to, if you decide that you're going to either replay something or go, to somebody to say, "Hey, I want to try to get this cleared." What's the best way to go about doing that? Do you contact a manager? Do you contact a label?
There are people in this industry. There's kind of like a little cottage industry that exists already in this industry of people who clear samples and clear licenses for you. So there are people like Deborah Manis Gardner from DMG, who is the person I've been working with the longest, and several other lawyers can do it as well. You contact one of these people, you're a lawyer, or you find a lawyer who has experience in the record industry.
Entertainment law.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you give them the song that you're replicating, or that you're sampling, or that you want to use a piece of. You give them the original recording, and you give them all the information, and that lawyer or that clearance person can then find out who owns it, who wrote it, and contact those people, send it to them, and ask for permission. And generally, unless it's a Beatles song or some really high-profile artist that doesn't grant anybody permission to use their songs, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, the rights holders will make a deal with you. Sometimes they ask for 100% of the publishing on a song, even though you're only using a small piece of their composition, because their composition is so well known or so integral to your composition.
Right.
And if you don't want to pay them, then you can't use it. And the answer to that is, if you don't like it, too bad. Make your own music. There's arguments on both sides, but that's the way the law works. You can argue all you want that it's not fair, and it might not be fair because musicians have been borrowing from each other throughout the ages, and that's how music's made. But in hip-hop, you're not allowed to, well, not in any music, you're not allowed to use anybody else's work without their prior approval and without making a deal, unless you're re-recording something and you're going to pay for the full
Pay a
rate
fee for it.
if you're doing a cover version.